What's going on, everybody? Back to the channel. My name is Harrison, and we are talking about Pokemon today. I just watched the Pokemon Presents a little bit ago, and while the Presents was pretty boring, luckily it was only like 13 minutes long, so it wasn't a huge waste of time. But this was definitely probably one of the weaker Pokemon Presents in a very long time. Um, Kind of funny how they were just kind of just trucking through all of the mobile games, and I get it. The mobile games aren't. I mean, a lot of people have to be playing them, right? If they're still talking about them, 4.5 years later, I'm sure they're still, making them a lot of money and all that good stuff. So they want to, send out those updates because a lot of people do tune in to these presentations. But I think for the more hardcore Pokemon fans and Nintendo fans in general, most of that stuff, we don't really care about. But somebody does, and I can respect that. But um, besides from the TCG mobile game that they announced, which I thought was kind of interesting. I know, obviously the TCG is still massive, and it had a huge rise over COVID, so definitely get that. And the digital aspect looks really cool, and the online battling and stuff with friends looks like it could be interesting. I might check it out, especially since it's free to play and all that good stuff. But obviously, the big game they announced was Pokemon Legends ZA, which is the Legends, version of uh of Pokemon, X and Y, where they first introduced the Mega Evolution. So that's going to be coming back. That hasn't been in a Pokemon game in a few years now, and I thought that was kind of probably the best, I'll say, gimmicky thing that Pokemon's done. They had the Z moves and stuff like that, which I thought were okay. But the Mega Evolutions were definitely really cool. Didn't really love like the Gigantamax stuff from Sword and Shield and the terrestrialization in Scarlet and Violet. I'm probably butchering that name, but didn't really care for that. I thought it was kind of lame, but I think the Mega Evolution stuff is really cool. So while the Pokemon presentation again I thought was pretty weak, I think the silver lining is I think the Pokemon Company and well, really the Pokemon Company, because I think the Pokemon Company dictates Game Freak and how long they can take to make a Pokemon game. It seems like they're really listening to the feedback of Scarlet and Violet, and while that game sold incredibly well, a lot of the hardcore Pokemon fans, the fans that, Pokemon can really do no wrong, even those fans were coming out and saying, "Hey, this game is pretty busted, and maybe you guys should let Game Freak take a little bit more time on their game so they can get them right." My personal opinion, Pokemon hasn't truly been great since they jumped to the 3DS into like the 3D landscape, and Pokemon X and Y was actually the first one um to do that. That was the first 3DS game. So maybe this is kind of like a full circle moment for Game Freak and Pokemon, and they can kind of reestablish kind of the greatness, in my opinion, of Pokemon. Because again, I haven't really vibed with Pokemon since they jumped to 3D, and that was back in 2013. So it's been a very long time for me for being a big fan of Pokemon. So hopefully, and I know a lot of people were like, "Oh, I wish it was coming out this year." It's like, no, we don't want it this year. We want Game Freak to let this game cook. Let it take the time, let it polish. If it give it more time for them to knock out bugs. Because if this game releases and it's an ugly, unplayable or a rough shape mess, I think a lot of people are going to be done with Pokemon for quite a while until they can get their act right. So, and this one looks like, now that they've established Legends as a new brand, this one feels like it is pretty big game, that it's gonna have a lot more features. It's gonna be more fleshed out. Because while I thought Pokemon Legends was by far the best thing Pokemon has done in a very long time, with the mainline Pokemon games, it was pretty ugly, and the world did feel very um I guess just very empty for the most part. Now while they had the Pokemon roaming around, but they didn't really do much. They just kind of stood there and occasionally walked in their little area. But It felt very empty, and so hopefully with this, with it seemingly being in this huge, this huge city, um, it could be. I think it could be very cool. So, and then another silver lining with this is with us not getting it in 2024 and it coming out and sometime in 2025 could be potentially a Switch 2 launch title. Now, I know the Pokemon Company prefers to launch Pokemon games on an established console. That's why the 3DS was out and they put Black and White and 2 on. They kept it on the DS because the DS had such massive numbers out in the wild. I imagine this game could potentially be maybe like a cross-gen game, and I don't think there's ever been a Pokemon game that's launched with a new Nintendo system, so that could be huge, and that could potentially sell a lot of units. So that could be awesome. But the biggest thing I want to take from, or hopefully take from this presentation, is we're getting Legends game next year. I can't imagine us getting. Now, I guess it did happen with Scarlet and Violet, but I couldn't imagine us getting the next mainline Pokemon in 2025. So hopefully they put it out in 2026 and give Game Freak even longer to develop the next mainline Pokemon game. That's my biggest gripe with Pokemon is, while I don't want every single game to take 5-6 years to make, um, Game Freak clearly needs more time to develop their games. They just do. The Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it ran so poorly, so many bugs. I mean, it was kind of a mess of a game, and it's really no excuse with a multi-billion dollar company like the Pokemon company. It's just no excuse at this point. And I think Scarlet and Violet was an eye opener for them. I think they really took that to heart, uh, into the series going forward, and hopefully we can just get Pokemon back to its greatness. I know a lot of people probably still think it's great, um, and I do enjoy the Pokemon brand, but yeah, it's time. It's time for it to get to where I think it should be. It should be like a tent pole game, and it's just not. Scarlet and Violet was just not great, and they still haven't put out a performance patch. The rumor was it's going to launch for the Switch 2, but the Switch 2 doesn't come out until 2025. That's a little too late in my opinion. So, yeah, I'm optimistic for Pokemon games in the future with the lack thereof kind of news with this Pokemon Presents. We didn't get the new mainline stuff announced. It's just Legends coming out next year. So I'm feeling pretty optimistic for Pokemon, more so than I have in the past. So let me know in the comments what you guys think, and do you guys agree with me, or can Pokemon do no wrong? So let me know, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank y'all so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Consider subscribing to the channel. I'll let YouTube algorithm pick one of my videos below for you guys to watch. Give it a click, and I hope you enjoy, and I will see you in the next video.